Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. I have to say that when President Donald Trump signed the executive order on day one to create the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and put Elon Musk in charge of it, I predicted a few things. First, I knew that there would be a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth from a lot of different people. There are those whose jobs would be affected when duplicate services and wasteful spending were cut. And there were those unions that hate it when any job is cut for any reason. And there would be those that would be upset when contracts were terminated for frivolous reasons. These contracts were for some crazy things. And there would be those liberal Democrats that only want to see the size of government grow and love to yell and scream when things are not going in that direction. But second, I predicted that people would turn on Elon Musk. All you had to do is watch how they turned on Robert Kennedy Jr. once he started working with Trump. He went from a viable candidate for Democratic nominee for President of the United States to a hated man that no Democrat wanted to have anything to do with. The thing that I find interesting is that DOGE has been hugely successful and very popular with the American people. And yet this hate toward DOGE and Musk continues. So it begs the question, how can anyone truly hate what they're doing? Well, from an article from Newsweek says Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, announced on Monday that almost 10 million Social Security records have now been updated. On a post on X, DOGE said the Social Security Administration has been executing a major cleanup of records over the past 4 weeks. Quote, approximately 9.9 million number holders, all listed ages of 120 or up, and have now been marked deceased. Another approximately 2 million to go, the post said. Well, last week, an update from DOGE said that about 7 million Social Security holders listed as aged over 120 had been marked as deceased. So what about the contracts and the terminated ones? Well, DOGE also said agencies on Monday terminated 109 contracts with a ceiling value of more than $1 billion, yielding savings of about $420 million. The canceled contracts include a $3.1 million contract with the Department of Energy, and they had this contract for website development services, as it was called, and a $2.7 million contract the Department of Commerce had for marketing, consulting services, outreach, and engagement support services. Whatever that means. That's according to DOGE and what they posted on X on Monday. So how many jobs has DOGE cut so far? Well, tens of thousands of job losses have been announced across numerous federal agencies. Last week, the Department of Health and Human Services announced that it will eliminate 10,000 jobs as part of a major restructuring plan. We covered that here on the podcast. The Environmental Protection Agency plans to eliminate its science research office and could fire more than 1,000 scientists and other employees, according to the Associated Press. It has also been reported that the Internal Revenue Service plans to lose about 18,000 employees, which is about 20% of its workforce. Meanwhile, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy told Congress that 10,000 workers at the United States Postal Service would be cut. The Department of Education has announced plans to lay off more than 1,300 employees, while the Department of Veterans Affairs is planning to reorganize, doing a reorganization that includes cutting 80,000 jobs, according to an internal memo obtained by the AP in March. The Pentagon actually reportedly plans to cut its civilian workforce by about 50 to 60,000 people. At least 24,000 probationary workers have been terminated since Trump took office, according to a lawsuit filed by nearly 20 states alleging the mass firings are illegal. In March, 2 federal judges ordered 19 federal agencies to reinstate fired probationary workers. We'll see how that goes. And meanwhile, about 75,000 federal workers accepted the offer to quit in return for receiving pay and benefits until September 30th. So how much spending has DOGE cut so far? Well, DOGE has said its efforts have saved the federal government an estimated $140 billion as of March 30th. Elon Musk, who heads the department, of course, initially said his goal was to trim $2 trillion from the federal budget, but backtracked in January saying that there was a good shot of cutting half that amount. One of the key areas of concern lately, though, has been the Social Security system. Eric Revel of Fox News said that Elon Musk and members of his Department of Government Efficiency discussed efforts by bad actors to defraud Social Security in an interview on Thursday. Musk and several members of DOGE appeared on Fox News, a special report with Bret Baier, and told host Bret Baier that a significant proportion of the daily calls that Social Security fields are from people trying to change legitimate recipients' direct deposit destinations in an effort to steal their benefits. Yeah, this is crazy. Quote, at Social Security, one of the first things that we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. This is what Aram Magadasti said, who's a DOGE engineer. He said, so when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the calls that they get are from fraudsters. That's his quote. Musk added that they steal people's Social Security is really what's happening here. They call in, they claim to be a retiree, and they convince a Social Security person on the phone to change where the money is flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day. And then somebody doesn't receive their Social Security, and it's because of all the fraud loopholes in the Social Security system. Well, Baier asked Musk about how some are concerned about DOGE's efforts and how they could inadvertently lead to legitimate Social Security recipients missing out on their benefit payments. And DOGE leader responded with this, saying that the group's efforts will help ensure beneficiaries get the payments they deserve. Quote, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of DOGE, will receive more Social Security, not less, Musk said. He said, I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of DOGE, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money, not less money. And he added that I want to emphasize that point and let the record show that I said this, and it will be proven out to be true. Well, the Social Security Administration, or SSA, said earlier this month that it's changing its policies so that a caller can no longer answer identifying questions by telephone ahead of changing a direct deposit account because it's no longer enough to prevent fraud. Social Security's primary trust funds are on pace to be depleted in about a decade, at which time beneficiaries would face automatic benefit cuts if no actions to reform the program are taken in the meantime, which I can't imagine they're going to be because it's one of those third rail issues. But it's not just fraudsters that are bilking the Social Security system. The Daily Wire reports that Elon Musk and venture capitalist Antonio Gracias have alleged widespread fraud in the Social Security system. Senior figures within the Department of Government Efficiency, within DOGE, and their project, claimed to have uncovered millions of non-citizens who were collecting Social Security benefits and potentially voting in American elections. Musk and Gracia said on Sunday that 2.1 million, yes, that's what I said, 2.1 million non-citizens received Social Security numbers last year alone, and 4.8 million received Social Security numbers over the last 4 years. That alone isn't necessarily evidence of fraud. You see, non-citizens in the country under certain rules are eligible for Social Security numbers. But the number of non-citizens receiving them surged under the Biden administration. Quote, the defaults in the system from Social Security to all the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. This is what Gracia said on Sunday. Said, we found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid as an example. Now, Social Security is currently deep in red. The trust fund that handles retirement benefits, for instance, is expected to simply run out of money in 2033, which isn't that far away. Musk claimed that the surge in illegal immigration and increased access to government benefits during the Biden years were intentional government policy. They weren't asleep at the switch, he says. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent deep blue one-party state. And I would agree with him 100% there. Gracia said that some of these non-citizens who received Social Security numbers showed up to vote. They showed up to vote. We actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records and found people were registered to vote, he said. We found some by sampling that actually did vote, and we have referred them for prosecution. Here, let me play the clip. You can hear it for yourself.
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff that we're working on. You've heard some of that already, but this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now, that work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on. Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from D.C. to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which to appear at a judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people, okay? So what happens then? Once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we map the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep.
No.
They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why.
Right.
And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote in this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already, that is already happening.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? So with DOGE and Elon doing such great work, why would anyone be legitimately opposed to it? Well, Liz Peek of The Hill writes, Democrats cannot have it both ways. They are either against waste and fraud, sucking up taxpayer dollars, or they are for it. And their relentless attacks on Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency make it clear which side they're on. Spoiler alert, it's not the side of the taxpayer. Well, resistance to DOGE is coming from many quarters. Loopy Democrats like Maxine Waters, who is vowing to fight. Fight exactly what? I don't know. But anyway, ambitious radicals like Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut and Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, who is irate that her pet project, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, may be gutted. And it's ironic that Warren is howling about Musk being unaccountable when her main achievement in the Senate was the creation of a bureau that answers to no one. Yeah. Well, the ever helpful leftist media also opposes Musk's investigations, of course. The New York Times reported on a recent Oval Office event with President Trump and the billionaire deploying this hilarious propaganda headline. Here's how it read. Appearing with Trump, Musk makes broad claims of federal fraud without proof. Now, to be clear, an abundance of proof exists. Even if Musk did not haul out spreadsheets chronologically, setting them out, all the monies, that from the federal government, but Democrats and their media allies just don't want to look for all the fraud and the waste, and they certainly don't want you to see it. After all, it was the nonpartisan Government Accountability Office, the GAO, that reviewed several years of data and estimated last April, while Joe Biden was still both president and candidate for president, that the federal government could lose between $233 billion and $521 billion annually to fraud. You might think that after receiving such a drastic report suggesting that up to $500 billion of taxpayer money was being stolen every single year by fraudsters, that the government would have issued an all hands on deck to crack down on the losses. Well, the GAO at least tried, writing, quote, given the scope of this problem, a government-wide approach is required to address it. The GAO laid out various recommendations, including that, quote, Treasury should identify methods to expand government-wide estimates of fraud, prioritizing higher risk program areas, unquote. So what did the Biden White House and specifically his Treasury Department do? Nothing. So forgive us if we have contempt for the opinions of Janet Yellen, Biden's Treasury Secretary. She never once raised her voice. Biden's out of control, reckless spending, even as our national debt topped $36 trillion and inflation jumped to decade high levels. And now, along with 4 other former Democratic appointed Treasury secretaries, she has dared to publish a piece recently claiming that Musk was threatening our democracy by giving his DOGE allies access to the Treasury payments system. And that's an outrage. If anything threatens our democracy, it is an unaccountable bureaucracy and a federal budget that grows without check and with very little oversight. My question to those preening critics, why didn't these former Treasury secretaries use the payments system to track down fraud and waste? Where were they during their terms in office? After his meeting with Musk, Trump signed an executive order titled Implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency Workforce Optimization Initiative. The order is meant to restore accountability to the American public, as they put it, something most Americans cheer for. The president directs DOGE to reduce the size of federal government workforce through efficiency improvements and attrition. It especially targets all, this is a quote, all offices that perform functions not mandated by statute or other laws, unquote. In other words, if Congress did not pass a law setting up an agency, it's on the chopping block. It may well turn out that the inertia and dysfunction of the federal government will be enormously useful to Trump and Musk. And last year, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office reported that $516 billion in appropriations for 2024 was associated with 491 expired authorizations of appropriations. In addition, the CBO wrote this. They said, quote, nearly 2/3, that's $320 billion, of that $516 billion was provided for activities whose authorizations expired more than a decade ago. That's a great deal of money. And that money went to activities not currently authorized by Congress. And that doesn't mean that legislators did not intend the funds to be spent, but rather they were simply too careless to re-up the laws that authorized the spending. In some cases, the programs intended for funding had expired. For DOGE, those monies are now presumably fair game, of course. And Trump's order charges Musk's team with reviewing federal agencies, and it will take a while. According to Federal Register, there are, get this, I mean, you probably couldn't have guessed. If I asked you how many agencies are there, you probably would not have guessed 441 agencies, would you? Many of these 441, of which most people have never heard of, for example, does the Administrative Conference of the United States, what does that mean to you? What do they do? What's it for? When did the Civil Rights Cold Case Records Review Board last meet? Or the Emergency Steel Guarantee Loan Board? Do we really need the Harry S. Truman Scholarship Foundation, whose board evidently last met in 2008? Or how about the Joint Board for the Enrollment of Actuaries, which was established in 1974, which last published a report in 2011? Well, you get the point. The federal bureaucracy begs for scrutiny, but the left is up in arms. The Times piece mentioned a little earlier claims that Musk's team is operating in deep secrecy, surprising federal employees by descending upon agencies and gaining access to sensitive data systems. Of course, Musk disagrees, saying, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the DOGE organization. Maybe the Times reporters should take a break from their hard-hitting anti-Trump agenda, pay a visit to X, and check out the @Doge account there, which has 3.9 million followers, by the way. Almost every day, the group reports on findings that validate its existence. A recent report, quote, federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania. Yeah, we covered this on a FOMO Friday. 700, actually over 700 mine workers operate 230 feet underground to process approximately 10,000 applications per month, which are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes. The retirement process takes multiple months, of course, because of this. This is the kind of inefficiency and waste Democrats want to protect. Talk about political suicide. I just can't disagree with anything there. But yet the hate for Elon grows. In fact, here's a piece from the Boston Herald and the editors there, and it says the Doge dammers on Capitol Hill are going to hate Elon Musk, latest target. Congressional wallets. Uh-oh, look out. Speaking at a town hall in Wisconsin Sunday night, Elon Musk suggested that his Department of Government Efficiency will investigate how certain members of Congress got strangely wealthy despite their modest public salaries, according to the New York Post. The deep pockets of some in Congress help explain the disconnect between those in power and the ordinary Americans who elect them to serve, and the political distaste for term limits, of course. Rank and file members of Congress make $174,000 annually. And yet, scores of lawmakers who have spent decades on Capitol Hill are millionaires. Quote, how do they get $20 million if they're earning $200,000 a year? Musk asked. We're going to try to figure it out and certainly stop it from happening. It's not a big mystery. One of the wealthiest members of Congress is former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Yes, the Democrat from California, with a net worth of $250 million or so. And that largely comes from her and her venture capitalist husband, Paul's lucrative investments in companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Netflix. Well, the Pelosi household isn't alone in reaping rewards from the stock market while one member serves in Congress. And Musk isn't the first or only person to want the wealthy spigot shut off. For example, Texas Representative Chip Roy has been trying to get the Trust in Congress Act passed for years. The bill would ban members of Congress and their families from engaging in insider trading by requiring members of Congress, their spouses, and dependents to place certain investment assets into a qualified blind trust while serving in office. Not a bad idea, right? The American people should have faith that Congress is at work for the good of the country, not for their own bank accounts. For years, I have been working to address the problem of stock trading in Congress, first introducing the Bipartisan Trust in Congress Act with Abigail Spanberger back in 2020. Of course, Spanberger retired, but he's continued on. Chip Roy has continued on to try to get this through, and now he's getting some bipartisan response too. And so, we're looking at maybe this might go through. You never know. Fresh fires have been lit under some lawmakers who see public service as just that, and not a lottery ticket. But making bank is a hard habit to break, and voting no on such legislation is an easy way to squash attempts to end the big bucks buffet. Adding Musk to the mix could change all that, of course, and alone the bipartisan lawmakers face another uphill slog to pass such legislation. But Musk's DOGE muscle and the public will have to see government that works for them. That's what they want to see, not those in power. They could push for reform over the finish line if they want to, but we'll see if it happens. Quote, "We have a long road ahead to address this Congress, but we can and should fix the problem during this term. We have the will and the mandate of the American people to do this. Let's deliver." That's what Chip Roy said. And it's about time. It's about time to do it. But as you have already seen, it will bring another layer of hate to those that are fighting for transparency and efficiency in our government. And maybe, just maybe, this time they will start keying the side of, how about a SpaceX rocket or something instead of a Tesla? I don't know. What do you think? I would love to hear from you on it. Of course, you can always get a hold of us at uncommonsensepodcast.com. We're on YouTube now. Thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.